so excited to be hosting this program tonight, and I am so excited that people are here, and I hope that all 30 people who signed up come. This is a topic that's really near and dear to my heart that I've been involved with for many years, and I'm just so excited to bring this program and to bring SIB shops to Montgomery County again, which we will be talking about. We have Brooke Levy, our executive director, is on the call. Brooke, do you want to say hello? Put you on the spot.
Welcome, everybody. We're so excited to be bringing SIB shops back after, gosh, several years of not being able to offer it. Not because we didn't want to, but just because it wasn't available during that time. And sorry, my daughter is right next to me. I apologize. Anyway, so we're very excited, and Joy has worked very hard with Sarah and Heidi to bring SIB shops. And so tonight is our, and I'm sure that Joy will talk a little bit more about it, but more for the parent side of things as we launch our SIB shop program. So thank you for coming. I'm very excited to have you to start this program.
I'll point out we have Heidi DePaula, who is one of our board members and also a former SIB shop facilitator, and Heidi was just retrained. Heidi has a really long bio, and I'm not going to read all of it, but she's been really involved in the Down syndrome community. She worked at the ARC for many years. She was involved with PODS, which later turned into the Down Syndrome Network of Montgomery County. She has a degree in psychology, a master's in early childhood education, and a PhD in education. So I just wanted to give a shout out to our board member that's here. Heidi, do you want to say? She's waving hello. Okay.
Yes. Welcome, everybody. And thank you, Sarah, for coming. And thank you, Joy, for starting SIB shops in Montgomery County with the Mount Washington Hospital years and years ago. And for Sarah for working together with me for a long time on SIB shops too. So we're glad to be together again. Thank you.
Yes. And later on in the meeting, I will introduce Kay, who will be another one of our SIB shop facilitators. But for now, I'm just going to go to our, so tonight this is our parent guardian workshop series, and we're talking about raising awareness. And, you know, if you look at this graphic, there's times where siblings might need a survival guide. Sometimes things are really hard for parents, and sometimes things are hard for siblings, and sometimes things are wonderful for parents, and siblings have those same wonderful experiences as well. And we'll be talking about both of them tonight. And this program is brought to you through the Down Syndrome Network of Montgomery County. And of course, our mission is to empower and support individuals with Down syndrome, their families, and the community through education, information, public awareness, and advocacy. The material that we will be talking about tonight will pertain regardless of what disability your child might have, or, you know, it could be a medical condition, chronic medical condition. And so I'd like to introduce Sarah, who is our guest speaker for tonight. So Sarah Beal comes to us from Mount Washington Pediatric Hospital, where she is a child life specialist, and that hospital is located in Baltimore. She's been there since 2010. She has a master's degree in child life administration and family collaboration from Towson. As a child life specialist, Sarah has worked with infants and children with a variety of complex medical and developmental needs, helping them to cope with their hospitalizations. In addition, Sarah has served as a SIB shops coordinator since 2012, where she facilitates workshops for siblings of children with special needs. She also serves as a resource to families and siblings of hospitalized patients, helping them to cope with hospitalizations. So we're really excited to have Sarah here tonight. So Sarah, I know your schedule is really busy. Thank you for giving us your time, and I will stop sharing my screen now, and I will turn this over to you.
All right. Well, Thank you so much, Joy and Heidi and Brooke and everyone for having me. I'm excited to speak to you guys tonight about sibling issues. As Joy mentioned, I've had the opportunity to facilitate SIB shops with Heidi years ago, and then we've held at the hospital here at Mount Washington as well. And so I'd just really like to talk to you guys about some of the issues that are unique to siblings, and how as parents and caregivers, you all can kind of collaborate with them and work with them and help support them. And so throughout the presentation, if you all have questions, please feel free to let me know. And I see Brooke just put a note in to put the questions in the chat, and that was what I was going to say. So that'd be great, and I can kind of answer those as they come up. So we'll go ahead and get started. So I just, Joy, you can go to, Brooke, you can go to the next slide, just to talk about kind of the objectives of the presentation. So just by the end of this, I would hope that you all would understand the common concerns and reactions that siblings may have. And when I say siblings, I mean your typically developing child. Just want to clarify that. And also understand the unique characteristics that siblings have, because they do have a lot of wonderful characteristics. And so I want to touch on those as well. Understand how you as parents and caregivers can help siblings cope with a child's diagnosis and behavior. And then finally, increase the knowledge of available services that are exist for siblings, particularly SIB shops, and Joy will get into more of that as well. So just now we'll touch on some of those common concerns and reactions.
What? No, yes, I don't go up there just for nothing.
So we'll go ahead and do that. The first one would be not getting enough attention from parents, family members, caregivers, or others. This can often be common, and most of the time this is not intentional, as I'm sure you well know, but the sibling that does have special needs does require that extra attention. So this is one of the major concerns that do exist for siblings. The next one would, again, not be getting that one-on-one time with parents. Again, not something that is often intentional, but something that does occur just with the extra needs that the sibling with special needs has. Often I hear a lot from siblings that they are embarrassed when their brother or sister may act out in public, or if they're at home and they have their sibling over or a friend over. This can be something that is often relatively common among siblings of any age. The next one would not be knowing how to explain to their friends and classmates that their sibling may look different or may act different. So really empowering those siblings with the information they need to be able to explain that diagnosis can be really helpful in alleviating some of those concerns. The next one would be having to take on a lot more responsibilities at home. Often siblings can get those extra responsibilities put on them at home, whether that be chores or other tasks at home if parents are tied up helping the child with special needs. You can go to the next point. Yep, there we go. And then that can be pressure to be the perfect child. Oftentimes this is not put on them by parents purposefully, but it can happen kind of as a result. They feel that their parents are tied up with the different needs of their sibling, and they feel like their parents might not be able to handle one other thing. We find this more so in school-age children or teenagers. That can they just kind of put it on themselves, or it can be self-imposed. The next one would be finding a space or activity that's just for them. Again, maybe they share a room with their sibling, or even if they don't share a room, maybe their siblings going into their room and taking their toys or taking their things, or even just finding an activity that's just for themselves. You know, sports or a lot of extracurriculars can take up a lot of time that you as parents might not just have that available time, and it might be challenging. And so finding something that is just for them is often difficult. And then the last thing would be doing fun or exciting activities together with their sibling, other than watching TV or reading books, often going out and maybe playing sports together or doing different fun activities can often be difficult. And so they often lack that shared experience that their peers may have. You can go ahead to the next slide. And so oftentimes with those reactions, there are certain behaviors that you might find that your typically developing child may exhibit. And that first one is anger. And this can kind of look differently depending on the child. That can be physical anger. Maybe there's increased outbursts from them. Maybe it's more physical. Maybe they're throwing things. But then there can be anger that oftentimes can be expressed, and maybe they're scared to even come and tell you, and you can just notice more emotions that they may be experiencing. And then there's often jealousy. This can occur for a variety of reasons, but siblings can be jealous of time that their sibling may get to spend with you. They can be jealous of just different privileges that their sibling may have. Maybe they don't have to do enough chores. Maybe they get special time. Maybe they get more time on electronics. But there can be a lot of jealousy, like I said, that can kind of occur in a variety of outlets. And the next one would be resentment. They may express that resentment towards you as a caregiver. They could express that resentment to maybe a teacher if they go to the same school as their sibling, or even if they're in the same class. They can express that resentment toward their sibling as well for, again, different privileges that they may get. Maybe they can eat certain foods, maybe they get special treats. So again, that can look very different. They can also express over-identification. And so this can look different depending on the age of the child, typically more for those younger siblings. But they may often be afraid that they could catch whatever their sibling has. They could start to even exhibit some of the same behaviors. If they notice their sibling is doing different things or acting out, they may feel, well, if I start to exhibit these behaviors, maybe I'll get more attention. So they can often over-identify with whatever particular special need exists. And then there can be a sense of guilt, and these can kind of manifest themselves in 3 different ways. And the first one would be caregiver guilt, especially for older siblings, if they are involved in some of that care that their sibling may need, maybe depending on their special need, maybe they need to help them with toileting or getting dressed or simple activities of daily living. And so they can start to have guilt for maybe not wanting to help with those tasks. And then also that leads into future conversations about the future. Often caring for the child with special needs, they do start to see that it may look different for them in the future. And so worrying about what life looks like for them, maybe they don't even want to be involved in the future. You can go back one, Brooke, thanks. And so there can be guilt around not wanting to care for them currently or in the future. And then there's survivor guilt. And that can manifest itself in a variety of ways. But one of the main ones is that they can feel guilty for not having special needs and for being the typically developing sibling. You know, why their sibling, why their family, why them? And then there can be guilt over conflicts. As you all know, I'm sure siblings like to argue and fight. It's just what siblings do. And again, this can vary with age, but having those conflicts, they can feel guilty about that, having that fight, or maybe saying something that they regret later. Now you can go ahead to the next slide. But then again, having that sibling with special needs allows the typical developing sibling to kind of have unique qualities and characteristics that their typically developing peers may not often have. And these can include a variety of things. One of the first ones is maturity, and some of you may have seen this already depending on your child's age. But they can often act more mature than peers their age just because of the life experiences that they've seen. They can have a new perspective on different experiences, really kind of realizing what really matters in life and some of those trivial things that their peers may be involved in. Fashion, the latest music, the latest trends, whatever that may be, you may notice that they might not care about those as much as their peers. They often have insight into different topics that their peers might not realize. We found that, again, in conversations with teachers, that they can have insight into different current events that may be going on in the world or things like that, just realizing kind of a different side or different perspective. They also have an increased sense of tolerance, maybe tolerance for different people's behaviors or even tolerance for conversations with adults. Sometimes they often gravitate toward conversing with adults rather than their same age peers, just because they find that they have more in common with them just based on what they've experienced. And then there can be a sense of pride, really pride in their family and pride in their sibling. They may not always show this all the time, and this may come and go depending on their age, but they really, really do love their sibling, even if they don't always show it, and may develop a passion or just interest in the typical diagnosis of their sibling at times, especially as they grow older. And then again, there can be that sense of loyalty. We find that they often, again, even if they don't always show it, enjoy, want to stick up for their sibling. We often see them advocating and educating Other classmates, maybe again, if they're in the same school, classmates of their sibling, or also their own classmates, and really kind of educating others, or even adults if they've gone out to a restaurant and a server or another patron at the restaurant, or to give the family a side eye if their sibling acts out. They really take on that opportunity and show the loyalty to their sibling. And then we often find that they will engage in some type of advocacy or just different career opportunities as they grow up. Again, this is something that I found in conversations with parents that they don't usually bring up, but siblings kind of gravitate toward those careers. Maybe they've seen their sibling have services from an occupational therapist or speech therapist or physical therapist. We've often found that they've kind of gravitated toward those careers, or even gotten into different things, such as changing different laws, or changing different accessibility options for their child, going into teaching careers. So there's a wide variety of things that we often find that they gravitate toward those careers as they start to grow older. You can go ahead and hit the next slide, Brooke. And so now I just want to turn it over to you guys, and you can kind of feel free to type these into the chat if you want. Have you noticed any of these characteristics or behaviors in your own child? And if so, what types do you think would be a typical reaction, or were there any characteristics that you noticed that kind of would be cause for concern for you? So if you have anything you'd like to chime in, again, feel free to add this to the chat. Jealousy around chores, I'm seeing that come up. Yeah, resentment. And jealousy around chores is a big one that we noticed in the SIB shops that I ran. That was a big one that everybody talked about. It's not fair. Mm-hmm. Not getting as much attention. Yep, we hear that one a lot as well. Space that's not theirs, not happy when sibling goes into his room. Yes, I've heard that one a lot, and wanting to lock their door and lock their things so their sibling doesn't get into them. Yes.
Sarah, what do you think about that, like people using, kids using locks to be able to protect their space from their sibling?
Yeah, so we've talked a lot about that, and I know that has been a concern with parents, you know, not especially if they don't have a lock. Not all kids have locks, but I think encouraged siblings to kind of find that safe space, whether that be just a corner of their room, or they have a chest where they put things that are off limits. And I think focusing on those rather than the entire room has proved helpful. And parents that I've talked to have seemed to like that better, rather than just locking their entire space, but kind of finding things that are theirs seems to have helped. Or if there is something particular that the sibling really likes, and that's kind of what they're gravitating towards, kind of inviting the sibling, if they can, to join in that activity, or finding a special time that they can participate in that together. So that room or that particular item is not kind of off limits to them, has helped with some of the older siblings. And so it looks like everything everybody's mentioned has kind of been typical or pretty common. And these are a lot of things what I've shared. A lot of this information is coming from the book that was written by the founder of SIB shops, and is also pulled from a lot of the characteristics that we've heard from participants over the years in running SIB shops as well. So good to hear that you guys, seems like that these concerns are not unique to you all as well, and what you're experiencing with your families. You can go ahead to the next slide, Brooke. So now I want to get into how you guys can help. And I know as parents that I'm sure many of you have navigated this for a while. Sometimes maybe you have a child that's been newly diagnosed, or this is something you've been going through for years. And so just to reiterate that you as parents and caregivers are your child's biggest resource to helping them navigate these concerns and fears. As a service provider, as somebody who's worked with siblings, obviously I can provide to you information about what I've seen and what I've seen in the research as well, but just reiterating that you all know your children best, and giving you the tools to kind of help them is kind of my goal here. And one of those tools, which we'll get into later, is SIB shops, but just letting you know that you have the tools to provide what your children need. So my biggest goal is to equip you in that and encourage you in what you're probably already doing as well. So the biggest thing, or often what I hear a lot from parents, is how do I know when to tell my typical developing sibling about their sibling with special needs? What should I tell them? What's the most appropriate age? And what really is most important is just kind of letting them guide the conversation and giving them age appropriate information. And kind of answering those questions as they come up. So I'll go into a little bit about these different ages and what you can kind of expect in talking to them. So the first one are preschoolers, if any of you have preschool aged siblings, but really would be to provide them information on a need to know basis. As you all know, preschoolers are inquisitive and are not shy to ask questions, especially if there is some type of physical disability involved and there is a physical difference. They will start to ask questions, or their peers may start to ask questions. They often are concerned about basics, specifically if they can catch whatever their sibling has is important. So trying to work through those things with them and answer those questions, and just being honest with them about what's going on is important. Describing the information in a clear manner in terms of the differences in behavior they may see or what may affect their routine is really important. Preschoolers really like to have a routine, and so if something with their sibling would interrupt their care, that would be important to let them know. So for example, if the sibling with special needs has a therapy 3 days a week, and that impacts who's going to pick them up from preschool, explaining to them why is important. And then moving on to our school age population. So usually about 6 to 12, that's kind of the age group I'm talking about here. Providing them information and giving them tools, especially as you get into older school age, so that they can answer questions on their own. They are knowledge seeking at this age, and they really enjoy liking to find that information out. So providing them with books they can read with more information, giving them just resources, places they can go, for the people they can talk to. If you are one of those people, that's wonderful. As they start to get into the older school age, you may not be one of those people. So providing those resources, such as SIB shops, such as, again, different books, different resources, different support groups are important as well for that age. They may also have different fears about what's going on. These fears can be about the diagnosis itself, or maybe behaviors they see, fears about what their friends may think, and they may ask very specific questions. So again, just giving them those answers to those questions as they come up. And starting at this age, it is important to start setting that more on one-on-one time for them to meet with you, to ask those questions, to do different things together. This is more important as they grow older and may start to realize the difference in time that may be spent with them and their sibling with you as parents. And then as they start to verbalize those fears, again, just answering those questions as they come up is important. And then for those adolescents, so any age, I would say preteen, so 12 to 13 and up, be willing, again, and available to answer those questions. Again, setting aside that one-on-one time is important. Not all teenagers want that one-on-one time, so trying to figure out what that communication looks like for your child is important. And again, providing those outside resources. There are a lot of online support groups, Facebook groups, social media can be a big thing, as long as it's handled appropriately for siblings to connect with other teenagers as well, to kind of ask those questions, because often they aren't as comfortable talking to parents. And then again, embarrassment is a big issue for them as adolescents, not being able to have friends over as often, so trying to provide that outlet for them as well. And then once you provide that information for the teens, giving them the tools to be able to share that information with their friends. Often that can be really important, and they like to be the ones to talk to their friends as well. And then adolescents are most concerned typically with what does the future look like for their sibling? What does the future look like for them? And so making conversations to have making time to have those conversations about the future and what that looks like is important as they start to grow older. And again, not assuming that is something that they're going to be comfortable with, and providing that care and that plan, having that plan in place for what life looks like for them as their sibling grows up, as they grow up, is really important. As I said before, that one-on-one time is important with the sibling. That open communication is important. Some additional outlets that you could consider would be counseling for that adolescent or school-age child, or even preschool-age child if you're noticing some behavioral issues to what's going on. And there's lots of avenues to explore that as well. Maybe therapy as a family can be important or necessary for a child, or that one-on-one therapy. And then just different support groups as an additional outlet. One of those support group types could be SIB shops, although it's not solely a support group, but a type of group they can get involved in. But there are different support groups. I know there's several for siblings of children with autism. If any of you are in that population, there are several that occur. We have one at the hospital as well for siblings. But just giving them that shared experience can be really important. So you can go to the next slide now, Brooke. So I'm going to open it up again for in the chat feature. Are there any ways that you all have found that have helped your typically developing child cope with their siblings' diagnosis, or any avenues that I've mentioned that you all have already explored? Or maybe if they're have separate time with their friends, yes. Yep, play dates with friends with the same diagnosis, one-on-one time, extra privileges. These are all great. And then of you guys that did mention a few things, yet working to be as fair as much as possible. Yeah, and I know that can be really challenging. Older siblings to babysit and paying them. Yes, that is key. I've had lots of parents tell me even getting them to go to certain support groups or even SIB shops. I had a few kids that were not shy to tell me that their parents bribed them with money to come. And later they came without having to be paid, so they did really like it. But so those of you that mentioned a few things that you have tried, hopefully those were things that you found that worked. Often that can be a trial and error process, what works well, what doesn't work well. And so hopefully you will find things that will kind of help. And again, those will obviously change as your child gets older. Disability Pass at Disney. I have heard great things about that from families. Great. So we can kind of move on. If nobody else has anything else to add here in the chat. Brooke, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. Perfect. So I'm going to jump in a little bit about SIB shops, since I'm so excited that that's something that's going to be started up again. Like Joy mentioned before, Heidi and I ran it together for years. And then 2019 was the last time we ran it together in Montgomery County, and then COVID hit and everything was turned on its head. But it is a wonderful program. So just to give you guys a little bit of background, and this is taken from the SIB Shops book where we pull our curriculum from, but SIB Shops is really designed as an opportunity for brothers and sisters of children with special health and developmental needs to obtain peer support and education within a recreational context. Really coming behind the idea that they do really well when they have that shared experience and time with peers that really get what they're going through. As parents and caregivers and service providers, we can, try to help them and provide them with tools until we're blue in the face, but really getting that time with somebody who really gets it, who's their age, has made such a big difference for them. In SIB shops, they have the opportunity to play high energy games, participate in disability awareness activities, have discussions, and interact with others just like them. And it takes place nationally and internationally, all over the country and beyond the country, and they're run by service providers. There's over, last I checked, over 400 SIB shops were available, and they're growing, which is wonderful. And since COVID has occurred, we now have the virtual option, which is another avenue that didn't exist before, that's now here. So I'm excited about that. And we don't really market it as a therapy session per se, but more of just an opportunity for them to engage together. So you can go ahead to the next slide, Brooke, thank you. So really just the main goals and the tenets of SIB shops. It provides brothers and sisters of children with special needs an opportunity to meet other siblings in a relaxed, recreational context. We really want them to have fun. In fact, in the beginning of our sessions, we typically go over some rules. And one of the rules we tell them is, you're going to have fun. That is our goal while you're here. It provides them opportunities to discuss the common joys. Concerns with other siblings of children with special needs. We really like to focus on, we call them the good and not so good parts of siblings with special needs. And then really we give them an opportunity to learn more about the implications of the special needs of their brothers and sisters. Sometimes we'll focus on a specific special need if we've got kids that are coming with the same diagnosis. Other times we kind of will do a broader stroke. It really depends on the siblings we have and different things that are available. So SIB shops really, again, exist to provide parents and you as caregivers and professionals, if we have any professionals on here, opportunities to learn more about the concerns and opportunities frequently experienced by brothers and sisters with special needs. So we really do take the opportunity to learn from our siblings that attend as well. So you can go ahead to hit next slide. So really quick, I do want to touch on just the benefits of SIB shops and talk to you guys just a little bit about a study that was done in 2005. I know I'm dating myself here a little bit, but what I found in my conversations with siblings and their parents are really the benefits that I'm going to just briefly touch on really do hold true. And I've heard so much from parents and from siblings themselves who will come back and tell me how much they enjoyed it and will then come back and help out with our program. And it really does just echo what I'm going to tell you briefly here. So back in the spring of 2005, the University of Washington put on a study, and they conducted a survey of SIB shops graduates. So graduates that have participated in SIB shops and that they were now aged out of the program, and the average age of these former participants were about 30. Over 90% of them said that SIB shops had a positive effect on the feelings they had toward their sibling. And they may have experienced some not so great feelings, maybe held resentment, maybe struggled with some of the things I've mentioned. But then after going through SIB shops, they had positive feelings toward their siblings. They had said that SIB shops taught them coping strategies. Over 2/3 of them said they learned better coping strategies on how to relate to their sibling and how to just interact with them better. Over 75% of the survey respondents reported that SIB shops had a positive effect on their adult lives. And 94% of them said they would recommend SIB shops to others that were experiencing a similar situation. Results also showed that many aspects of the SIB shops program appeared to serve as protective factors for siblings who had individuals with who had siblings with disabilities. And often this sibling population is often considered to be at risk. They're often the forgotten population. It's actually, there's not, unfortunately, still not a lot of research on them exists. So there's definitely more room to do more studies with this population, the importance of involving them in different programs such as SIB shops. But participating in SIB shops did provide some protective factors against some of those negative effects that I talked about earlier. And then the study showed that these positive effects lasted all the way through their adulthood as well. The biggest impact or beneficiaries of SIB shops really are those siblings who have siblings with disabilities. And it's shown that if we provide that support to those typical developing siblings as they grow up, it'll increase their chances that they will be lovingly involved in their siblings' life as they grow up into adulthood. So you can see that there's really they spoke so highly of the program and spoke to the benefits. And it was really beneficial for them just to have that time to connect with others that really understood what they were going through. So my hope is that some of you that are on this call, if you are going to be participating in SIB shops, that it will provide the same benefits for your family as well. So you can go ahead to the next slide. I just wanted to open it up if anybody has any questions, and then I'm going to turn it over to Joy to talk about what those next steps look like for the SIB shops program that they hope to offer. So if you guys have questions, feel free to pop it into the chat feature. But I hope that that was encouraging to all of you. Like I said, you as parents are your child's best advocate. And I want to encourage you that just coming in and wanting to learn more and being participating in this shows that you are interested in this area and are trying to learn as much as you can about how to help your sibling as they navigate this unique role in their lives.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
So question if your kids are teens. So SIB shops, it was originally designed for 8 to 13-year-olds. They do have some SIB shops programs that are offered for teens. As far as I know, I'm not aware of any that currently meet in the state, but there are several online groups. There's a SIB Teen Facebook group and several other websites that with chat rooms and different communities like that exist for teenagers, and they've found success kind of in the virtual arena. They were meeting in person. Prior to COVID, there were a couple groups that would meet in person around the Baltimore area. I can look into that for you. I don't know if they're still meeting, but they found that SIB shops itself wasn't really what the teens were interested in. They were more they would go to movies, they would go bowling, they would go out to dinner and kind of hang out and just talk with one another. And they would kind of create their own thing, is what we found with teenagers that kind of graduated from the program. We've also had several teens that have come back to help out and lead SIB shops that way to get community service hours, or just to stay plugged in and to be able to connect and kind of assist other younger siblings. We found that they really liked having that outlet and liked helping others as well.
Does anybody else have any questions for Sarah? I think we're a small enough group that if somebody wants to speak instead of using the chat.
Yeah, you can feel free to speak as well. We don't have to do it all through the chat.
Hi, my name is Julie.
Hi.
I was just wondering if there were any accompanying parent resources so that we know some of the things the kids are learning.
Yeah, I can feel free to send you some. If you want to put your email in the chat, if you don't mind, or if Joy has that information when you signed up, and I can send that over.
Maybe what it would be good, Sarah, is if you just sent some of those resources to Joy, and then she could send them out to everybody on this
yeah, that would be great. I can do that.
I guess my question is kind of about the process of the kids going through the SIB shops, and is there information that you send home to the parents that kind of lets them know what the kids are learning?
So yeah, when we used to run those, they would get kind of a copy of the schedule of what we kind of went through. And I didn't have a ton of details listed in the schedule because I had talked to the kids and asked them, kind of had an outline, and then told the kids, your parents may ask you questions. Feel free to share with them as much or as little as you like. And then later I would usually send a follow-up email with a little bit more information to the parents, kind of giving you some more explanation of what went on. One of the things we do tell siblings is we like to keep it a safe space, and that we don't share specifics with parents in terms of what their child said unless we find that it will be a danger to them or something that you would really need to know. But I usually would give general information to parents, kind of the topic for the day or some of the activities we did, but kind of encourage the kids to share with you and gave you the schedule so you could kind of have a jumping off point to ask those questions.
Does anybody else have any questions for Sarah?
Hi, I was wondering, so is there currently an active like SIP shops running at, at Mount Washington or anywhere nearby? I live in Howard County.
Okay.
And what is the commitment? Is that usually you have to attend like so many of them, or you kind of pick and choose, and do I have to bring the regular, typical developing children over, and then the special need children would stay home? I mean, that sort of thing. Like maybe
Yeah,
childcare.
so right now we do not have any running in person at Mount Washington. Joy can kind of answer the plans for Montgomery County and what that'll look like in a virtual format. And I can check with you. There were some running in person again prior to COVID. And I don't think they had anything. You said you were from Howard County. I don't think they had anything in Howard County, but there was one in Frederick. There were some in surrounding counties, but as far as I know, nobody in the state is currently offering anything in person right now. When they were offered in person, they were for just the typically developing sibling, and then the child with special needs would stay home with you as a parent. The sessions, when they were in person, lasted about 3 to 4 hours in length, and they were typically held on Saturdays or Sundays, depending on the location. Montgomery County, we usually ran them on Sundays. And then unfortunately, we did not have any childcare opportunities that were available during that time. But I can kind of look, and again, I can send that information to Joy to see if there are any that are currently running in person for you. But last I checked, just due to COVID, it was kind of tricky. Just a lot of them are held at schools or different resources, and with everything going on with COVID, they were not last I checked, but there were several virtual options available.
Thank you.
Sure.
Joy, do you want to share what our plans are? Because I know that you have some slides that you want to share about the actual SIB shops, but maybe since the question was brought up, you can at least share what we're doing.
Sure. So this will actually be the last slide in my presentation, but I can start now. We recently went through a training. So it was a 7-hour training. So I was trained, and Heidi DePaula, one of our board members who's a former facilitator, was also trained. Heidi, I don't know if you want to turn your screen on if you're there and wave. And Kike Lomo was also trained. Kike, if you're there and you can turn your, awesome. Okay. And I'm so excited that Kike went through the training with us, because Heidi and I, as middle-aged women, have experience running SIB shops, and Kike is a sibling herself, and she will just be a wonderful addition to our team. So I'm actually going to read, Kike, I'm going to read your bio and introduce her, and then I'll tell you what we have planned. So Kike is a 23-year-old adult sibling. She graduated college at the height of the pandemic during 2020 with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and political science from Mount St. Mary's University. She works full-time at her mother's family childcare preschool. She has been a Special Olympics cheer and cheer extreme all-stars coach for many years, and has had many jobs in the past working directly with young adults with special needs as well as adults with special needs. She's very excited to be working with SIB shops and getting to know siblings on a deeper level. And when she completed the training, I think she kind of thought to herself, oh, it would have been nice if I would have had this program when I was growing up. So we're so excited that she is a part of this. So what we have planned, so the 3 of us have been trained. We are able to be facilitators. We have put out a survey to our membership asking when people would like for SIB shops to be held. And actually, Brooke, if you wouldn't mind putting that in the chat now, if anybody hasn't completed that yet. Right now it is looking like late Sunday afternoons is the time that people want. We're going to start virtually. And once we have a cohort of people signed up, I think we'll reach out to that group and determine whether we'll stay virtual or try to meet in person somewhere. Typically, SIB shops meet once a month, so our goal is to meet in March, April, May, and June. If it's virtual, it will be somewhere between 60 and 90 minutes. When we did our virtual training, there was an actual SIB shop that we observed with actual siblings. And, they adapted some of the activities, but it actually worked like surprisingly well. And I'll talk a little bit more about this when I go through my PowerPoint, but basically during SIB shops, the kids are going to play games with each other. And some of the games are just for fun. And some of the games are just getting to know each other and, kind of like team building. But some of them within the context of the game, they have serious discussions. So, we might ask kids to share a strength, something that they're really good at and something that's really challenging for them, and then ask them to say the same thing about their sibling. And then, the kids listen and then they realize they have stuff in common. And I think Heidi and Sarah will probably attest that one of the most amazing things about leading SIB shops is kids being able to meet other kids who experience the same things that they do. Because just like you as parents, like it's very nice to, talk to another parent whose child has Down syndrome or whose child has autism. The siblings need that too, and SIB shops gives them an opportunity to be able to do that. And sometimes just in the normal course of their lives, they don't know other kids who have siblings with special needs. So anyway, so we're planning to start virtually. It would be great if more people can fill out the survey, and then, we can, Sunday afternoon, late Sunday afternoon is looking like the favored time. So we're going to get some dates on the calendar and start promoting this. Yeah, so Lay, I don't know if that answers your question. And somebody does not have to live in Montgomery County to belong to our group. We're going to limit our group to 12. And I think it remains to be, I think that we will have kids who have siblings that have disabilities other than Down syndrome in the group. But I'm stumbling over my words. We're hoping to have 12 interested kids. So hopefully that tells a little bit about what we're planning. And I could go ahead. I have a short PowerPoint as well. So hold on, let me share my screen. Wait a minute, how come, why can't, okay. Wait a minute, let me make sure I didn't miss any. Okay, so the Sibling Support Project was started by a man named Don Myers. He started this program, and I'll talk a little bit about more of him. And the Sibling Support Project is the first national program in the U.S. that supports millions of brothers and sisters of people with special health, developmental, and mental health concerns. There's a SIB shops training book that we as trainers, there's activities in there for us. And then there's books for different age kids, Views from Our Shoes, the Sibling Slam book, Thicker Than Water, and the Sibling Survival Guide. In a follow-up email, I can send information. There's also some different groups online. So there is Sib Teen, and that is a moderated Facebook group for teens. And one of the things I think that's really nice about Sib Teen is, well, number one, because there aren't necessarily Sib shops for teenagers, but it allows kids to connect with other kids kind of at any time, right? Like if they had some, horrible incident at a restaurant and the family had to get up and leave because the sibling was misbehaving and they're really like annoyed about it, they can write about it on Sib Teen. And likewise, if their sibling achieved something that they've been struggling to do and they're really proud of their sibling, they can write about that on Sib Teen. So Sib Teen, gives them an opportunity to share feelings at any time of day or night. Sib 20 is a Facebook group for 20 somethings, and SibNet is a group for adult brothers and sisters. And I believe that Sib Teen is the only one of that's moderated. The sibling movement, so it really started 1982 with Don Myers. He launches the first Sib shop at University of Washington. In 1990, the Sibling Support Project begins at Seattle Children's Hospital. And then after that, it took off. It began to grow and thrive nationally and internationally. And today you get to join the Sib shop movement too. One of the things that we really want to instill in Sib shops, we want siblings to have an opportunity to talk about the good and the not so good parts about having a sibling with a disability. And we want them to really have positive feelings and help them to develop positive feelings towards their siblings, because the reality is that the sibling is going to be in the life of the person with the disability longer than the parents. And some of these siblings are going to become the next generation of supporters when parents are too old or not healthy, not able to take care of their, adult loved ones with the special needs. Sometimes it's the siblings that step in. And so we really want to instill love and positivity and advocacy at a young age. So these are just some statistics. You guys can read the slides. I'm not going to bore you with them, but you know what? A lot of adults with IDD are living at home and being cared for by, parents and then by siblings. And as parents age and pass away, siblings often assume the support responsibilities for their brothers and sisters. You know what? Sarah already shared this slide. But again, when adults who attended Sib shops as kids asked about it, they reported that it affected their adult lives and that they would recommend Sib shops to others. So, I think what the program does really does have a lasting impact on children. So some of this might be a little redundant to what Sarah talked about, but children have a need for information. And here is a quote from a child. When we were younger, my mom told me that Emily had a handicap, but I really wasn't sure what that meant. As we got older, Emily still acted like a little kid, and I didn't understand. Then mom took me to the library and got me a book about a girl who had a brother who had a disability. When I read the book, I knew exactly why my sister was like she was. The book explained everything I needed to know. So, this shows like this child needed information, and it sounds like she wasn't really getting it from her parents until they took her to the library and got her a book. But by the time a child is 11, they're certainly old enough to have a better understanding and to be told about their child's disability. So just like you as parents have a need for information, children do as well. Sometimes our children and siblings cause embarrassment. So when Scott and I were younger, he would throw temper tantrums in the middle of the cereal aisle at the grocery store. If I asked who's experienced a temper tantrum at the grocery store, you would probably all raise your hands. I hated it when people stared at Scott, even though they didn't mean anything by it. I was 10, but I knew how to act in public. Scott, on the other hand, was 15, but he acted like he was 5. It was a tough problem for a little kid like me to figure out. And I will tell you that when I led SIB shops in the past, this always came up. And as an example, like one of the things that we helped the children do was create a script so that if their sibling was misbehaving in the grocery store and people were staring, they could use that as an opportunity to educate the person who was staring, and maybe say, oh, my brother has autism and he doesn't know how to express himself, or he's nonverbal and that's why he's screaming, but he's a very valued part of our family and we love him. Or, just giving a child a script. If they get bullied on the school bus about their brother, giving them a script, a way to have something positive to say back to the bully, a way to educate them. Kids need that. Siblings are going to have embarrassing situations just like parents do, and they need tools with how to respond. And so together as a group, like the kids would come up with and help each other develop a script to respond. But I certainly don't want to focus on negative. I want to talk about some positive things. Tolerance is definitely something that children with disabilities that have siblings with disabilities have a lot of. One sibling said, in spite of his IQ, Kevin has taught me so many valuable lessons. Growing up with a brother with a disability has fostered perseverance and patience. I'm accepting of not only the shortcomings of others, but in those in myself as well. And then another positive attribute is advocacy. At a young age, siblings can learn to be advocates. So this child, well, she was 18, but she says, I think I'm a stronger person for having a sister with special needs. I've had to stand up for more things for both my sister and myself than I would have if she wasn't in my life. And we really, as part of SIB shops, do try to, give kids examples of ways where they can advocate and stick up for their sibling when those situations arise. And then that becomes a lifelong skill. And all of you as parents, are advocating for your children, right? You walk into an IEP meeting, you're advocating for your child. Let's see. Okay. So a goal of SIB shops is to minimize siblings' concerns and maximize their opportunities. So some of this is redundant with what Sarah talked about, but it provides siblings with age-appropriate information from a variety of sources, provides siblings with opportunities to meet other siblings of kids with special needs. And that's so important because sometimes they don't have that. I mean, when you're sitting in a SIB shop group, and one kid, I don't know, talked about, oh, we were at a restaurant this weekend and my sibling misbehaved and we all had to get up and leave. And all the other kids were like, oh, that's happened to us too. And there was just this camaraderie, like all of a sudden they found other kids that they had that in common with, that they maybe in the past hadn't really had anybody to share feelings about those kinds of situations with. And so it's just very valuable. SIB shops, another goal is to encourage good communication with typically developing children. So again, maybe teaching a child, teaching somebody in a grocery store where their child is acting up, or even, sometimes kids, they might be reluctant to have a friend come over to play. This was obviously pre-COVID, and maybe if a child told a friend ahead of time, like, oh, I have a sister who's special. Let me tell you a little bit about her before you come over. And kids have the words to be able to tell kids about their sibling, it makes them feel more comfortable. They learn through SIB shops, learn more about life as a sibling because they learn what other siblings experience. We want parents to reassure their children by making plans for the future, and as when it's age appropriate, sharing those plans with your children, because just like you all have concerns for what will happen to your child as you age, the kids think about this too. Your other children think about that as well. And, when you should have age appropriate discussions. And the strongest factor that affects a sibling's interpretation of disability will be the parent's interpretation. And siblings' experiences really parallel the experiences of the parents. So, when your other kids see you coming to these meetings and being an advocate for the child with Down syndrome or autism, whatever it is, those, your children, they're seeing that and they're going to, internalize and hopefully take on those same attributes as well. Why do we have SIB shops? SIB shops allow kids to meet other brothers and sisters in a relaxed recreational environment. They can discuss common joys and concerns with other brothers and sisters. They learn to handle situations commonly experienced by SIBs. They learn more about the implications of the brothers and sisters' special needs. And it provides parents and professionals opportunity to learn about the concerns and opportunities frequently experienced by siblings. And I know, like Sarah kind of mentioned, when we used to offer SIB shops at the ARC of Montgomery County, when the parents would drop the child off, we would always give them the schedule for the day. And we encourage parents when they pick their child up to talk about the schedule. So that way, hopefully the kid could share what they did and a friend they made and maybe what they learned and some of the activities they did. And, that way, I think parents had a sense of what was going on at SIB shops. So I kind of went over this before, but we expect our SIB shops to begin in March. It will be offered once per month in a 4-month series. And as I said, at this time, late Sunday afternoons seem to be the preferred time slot. But if you haven't filled out the survey, it's in the chat box, so please fill it out. We have 3 trained facilitators, Heidi, myself, and Kike. The targeted age of the participants will be 8 to 13. Now, if I find that I have 4 people who have 7-year-olds that want to participate, yeah, we'll move things around a little, but we can't have the age spread be too big. Because we need it to be a cohesive group and we need the activities, everybody to be able to understand the same activities. The program will start off virtual, as I said earlier, and once the group is established, we'll decide if we want to remain virtual or meet in person. There will be a small fee to participate to help ensure that registrants attend the program. So I think we had decided on $20 for a total for the 4 sessions. So, sometimes just the research has shown, and really the SIB shop models, as I've talked to people across the country, people charge a nominal fee and kids are more likely to show up. And we really want to have a cohesive group. We want the same group to come for all 4 sessions, because the more, the kids are going to benefit more if they come 4 times than if they come 1 time. So I want to stop sharing my screen. I see there's a couple things in the chat. Oh, okay. It's just the survey. Are there any questions? So we're a small enough group. People are welcome to put their cameras on if you want or ask questions. Heidi and Kike, I don't know if you guys as trained facilitators, and Heidi is an experienced facilitator, have anything you want to share, or Kike, if you want to talk at all about what it felt like to go through the training as an adult sibling, sort of how things might have resonated with you. And all the parents on here, please, this is your opportunity to ask questions. Heidi.
I have something. I'm thrilled to have Kike part of the SIB shops, because it's so important to have another a leader for them that is also a sibling, because in SIB shops the experts are the siblings, not the facilitators. So they go through the experience every day in their lives. So when they are sharing, and you're asking why do you have is it important to come to, did you pick and choose the session you come? It's very important that you come to all the sessions that you signed up for, because the kids are going to develop, they're going to get to know each other as the sessions and the games continue, and they're going to learn how to trust each other with the feelings, and they're going to be able to help each other. And you won't believe how wise your kids are, because they really are. And they come up with a, when somebody has a question or something they're sharing, they will help each other. And one of the favorite group activities that we did, and Sarah remembers that, is the Aunt Blabby, where we give them questions that are either real from somebody that is from the group, or from the just hypothetical that were constructed, but they're very real. And we ask them, what would you do, like if somebody stares at you in the restaurant or somewhere while you do, and the kids will tell each other what they do, share their experience. So it's important that they know each other so they can really share and help each other. And it's not therapy. I'm telling you, SIP Shop's not therapy, but it has a lot of therapeutic, some kind of contributions that they give to each other. And that's what we want when we have friends, when we have a group, a parent group or something, we help each other. It's not therapy, but we do help each other. We go home a little happier. So we want them to be able to do that at SIP Shops, and as they get to know each other, and a lot of them become real friends. So, and we encourage the parents to follow up. If they are becoming friends, we can tell you, this person, maybe would be a good friend because they're very doing things together. Virtually, they may not show as much, but in person, they will hang together, right? Joy, I remember Joy saying those things. So just like they get to be friends. Because when I went after Joy, when I got the group and Joy stopped going and I started going years afterwards, the friends start being friends when Joy was there. And they were still years later friends at SIP Shops, and they were helping each other. It was beautiful to see. So those things are important. It's not therapy. They are the experts, and it's important to come to the sessions as you sign them up to come, because they do get to grow as together. So, and I'm so glad that Kiki is going to be a sibling at the group too. So as a leader of siblings, they're all leaders. They're all siblings. All the siblings that sign up, they are leaders. So Kiki, you want to say anything about your experience?
Yeah, it was really cool getting to experience the SIP shop that they had during the training, because I got to see the kids interact with each other. And even though it was virtual, they were all still very willing to participate in the games. And it was really cool to see that. And it makes me very excited to get started to see if the siblings that we have, if they're going to be as willing to participate and be involved.
I'm just looking at the chat. Thank you, Kike. Are there any other questions that we can answer? So we're really super excited about getting this started. It's been a dream of several people I know for us to start it. And Heidi and I, as previous facilitators, I don't know, I can say for myself, I feel like I got as much out of doing it as the kids did. And Heidi made a really good point that it is not therapy. It is a therapeutic. It can be, the group can be therapeutic, but it is not therapy. And, if any parents are wondering, like if any child ever expressed something that, was very concerning to us, of course, we would share that with you. We're all, well, not Kike, she's young, but, we're parents ourselves. So, yeah, if there were ever anything concerning, we would absolutely share it with you. But in general, if you asked about SIP shops, if you called afterwards and wanted to talk about it, I would tell you, the activities that we did. I wouldn't tell you like specifics that your child said, because we want the kids to be able to feel that what is said at SIP shops stays at SIP shops. But again, if it was anything concerning, we would let you know. And so I will say for the parents that are on here that if your child ends up coming and we do it virtual, it's really important that the kids have a private space when they're on when they're at sib shops, because if they're sitting at the kitchen table and you're making dinner, they might not feel at liberty to share things that they might share if you weren't listening. So I just ask the parents on here to, if your kids do participate, to please give them the space to really be able to, share without you listening in.
Erica had a really good thought here. So Erica, I also have older kids who did not have the opportunity to go through sib shops when they were younger. And so I think that Joy and I are actually going through some resources from our website. And so Joy, do you know of some good resources for kids older than because our limit right now is what? Is it 9 to or 8 to 13? 8
to 13.
Or
well, so the one thing that I know of off the top of my head is Sib Teen, which is the moderated Facebook group where it allows teens to connect with other teens. Sarah, I know, is going to send me some other resources, and feel free to chime in now, Sarah, if you.
Yeah, I can send you. Like I said, we had a group that met in the Baltimore area, and I can reach out and see if they might know some other resources closer down your way that they were meeting in person. Again, this was all before COVID. Years ago, I actually tried to run a teen sib shops for 14 to 17-year-olds, and it, to be honest, did not work well. I think they really just wanted to hang out, and we only had like 1 to 2 come, which is totally fine. But to get that bigger group was difficult. Teenagers, they also have more responsibilities. Some of them were working, some of them were involved in sports. And so it was kind of hard for them to pick one time that worked for everybody to kind of devote to getting together to do these types of things. But I can look and see and do some research for you and get back to you to see if I can find any places that are kind of doing things in person or just other online communities that are out there.
Thank you.
Do you want to say something about the conferences sometimes that we had that may come again?
Oh, yeah.
Please.
Yeah, we also there were several conferences in the Maryland area that they had workshops for teenagers and for teenage siblings and younger siblings as well, where they would hold different activities for them to do. Parents would have an opportunity to attend sessions, and they had workshops for the teens and kids. I haven't heard of anything happening right now, but this was several years ago, again, that they had some in the Maryland area. Heidi, I'm trying to remember what organization that was. Do you remember?
I think it's the people that put together was, I think they have like a young adults group for siblings. And they put I think I only knew about two conferences. I went to one with you. And the first one I couldn't go because something had happened in my family. I had to go visit my family that was sick. So, but then I didn't hear about the last one. I was just looking before this meeting, was in 2019 that they had that I think you announced it too. But there is a group of siblings, that young adults group that got together, and they have a good group, I think, on the Facebook or something. And they do meet each other. So it's not the end after they get to be teenagers either, because then they'll be young adults and they can be together. So in some way, I don't know, and online or something, they would just, so it was just the beginning. And it started with a sibling, I think was at the Arc of Maryland, put it together. I think we went to a meeting and they put it together. And this young adult, I'm trying to remember her name, Carolyn
Chen.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Carolyn Chen. Yeah, I can reach out to her to see if she still has some contact and see what's going on over there.
And some of you may have met Carolyn Chen because she was like when COVID started and the vaccination started. She was the one, as a sibling, was concerned about it, about her sister, about her parents, and she contacted me. And then I told her, get to the group, get on the e-groups, and and people are going to help you. And she did. So she was a leader. She even created a small group so that could help us advocate. And she would tell to the council, she was part of the council, Montgomery Council for People with Disabilities. And she was teaching the council, advocating for getting the vaccines for families, because they were vaccinating the kids but not vaccinating the families. So you remember that. So she was very good, and she was like a Sibling, starting to do something that turned out to be big and influenced the whole system to change the way they did. And and she was the one who organized the first conference and the second, and it was beautiful. I cannot explain how beautiful it was for people all ages, from little kids to adults, talking about their feelings and about their things that they learn and the concerns, and sharing and helping each other with resources. Was beautiful, just one of those conferences that you said, I want to go to another one when it comes, So it was tiring because it was the whole day, but it was not, you didn't get out of there tired. You got there happy, and it was good. It was very rewarding. And I'm not even a sibling, but I was so excited, about them being able to meet each other and teach us and share with us what they could do. So watch out. If there's another one that comes, make sure you're part. We'll tell you, but make sure that you go to. And that's a place for your children to go to, because there will be some things for them, right? If that happens. So that's talking about post-COVID, hoping, dreams. But
thank you, Heidi.
It doesn't happen if you don't dream. Yeah.
Erica, I also have, as you know, some older teens, 16 and 19, who are Helen's older brothers. And because I've been thinking about this and what kinds of opportunities we could provide for just whole families. And because I think that, once the kids get to be in their upper teens, and I think Sarah would agree from trying to do the teen Sib shop is, it's harder to connect with those teens because of, whether it's scheduling or whether they're just going to clam up and not talk. I mean, I have one son who's, he's in his bedroom and doesn't come out very often. And so, just as an example, so I think it would be fun, maybe DSNMC could host, let's have just a get together of kickball, family kickball. And it would be more of an informal gathering, because I think it's much easier for at least the older teens to get together and start talking and build those relationships on their own terms, rather than saying, okay, I'm going to make you go to a Sib shop, because my kids would look at me and be like, yeah, no, because they're just at that age now where they're not going to do it. Whereas some of the younger kids will be like, yeah, I'll go make new friends because they're 12 and under. And I'll go, do some fun activities and, like I said, make new friends. So Erica, I think I'll put my email in here. Erica, I know you have my email, but anybody else who's interested in something like this, please contact me, and maybe we can work together to come up with something for our older kids. There we go. And also, I know that we're coming towards an end. I don't know if you saw, I did put an evaluation form further up. I'll see if I can copy and paste it. I'll put it at the end if you wouldn't mind. It really is a short evaluation form. It really will take you less than 5 minutes, probably like 2 minutes. So we take, your thoughts your input into consideration, and coming up with new topics and how we do our workshops.
Yeah, and actually, when I send out the materials that Sarah shares with me, I'll probably send the evaluation form again in case you don't fill it out tonight, because the information really is helpful to us.
And I just want to say, I know I'm interrupting, Joy, but Sarah, this has been so great for me. And I know that Joy introduced me earlier, but even as the executive director, I feel like, oh my gosh, I really missed the boat with my older brothers, because I wish that I had either paid more attention when they were younger. Because I know Heidi, you and Joy, and Sarah, you were leading these, I think, when we first moved here. to Maryland, and I just wasn't together enough to sign my boys up for something like this. And so I'm really excited about bringing it back. And Sarah and Heidi and PK and Joy, I cannot thank you enough for making this happen.
Well, we're excited to get it started. So fill out that survey of when you want it to happen. And because, yeah, we're going to make a decision shortly and, you know, start promoting. So I want to thank Sarah. Thank you so much for coming, and Kike, thank you for being here and introducing yourself, and Heidi. And are there any final questions before we close for the night? All right. Well, thank you all so much for being here. I hope you learned, and you know, hopefully you'll have some things to think about. And you know, we hope you have children that will be interested in participating in SIP shops. So have a great night, everybody.